her hair with a few strands of gray coming out of her bun 10 minutes after she'd looped it up. Mama's strong face, which Da always said was just like Bird's. She couldn't see that. When she looked in the mirror, she saw the freckles, the gray eyes, and the straight nose, but altogether it didn't add up to Mama's face. She was glad to reach the house on the corner, the number 112 painted over the door, and the vestibule out of the sun. They climbed the stairs, the light dim as they stopped to catch their breath on each landing. "Let me." Bird took the blue cloth medicine bag that hung over Mama's shoulder. "It seems your patients are always on the top floor." "Ah, isn't it so?" Mama said, holding her side. "And the babies, always coming in the dead cold of winter, or on steamy days like this." Bird could feel the tick of excitement. Mama's words to her were deep inside her head. "Only days until your 13th birthday. You're old enough to come with me for a birthing." Bird's feet tapped it out on the steps. A baby, a baby. She'd been helping Mama for a long time, chopping her healing herbs and drying them, helping to wash old Mrs. Cunningham, bringing tonic to Mr. Harris. But this, a baby coming, she couldn't have been more excited. On the 5th floor, the door was half open. 2 children played under a window. An old man rocked in the one chair, a toddler on his lap pulling at his beard. "The daughter's inside," he said. In the bedroom, the daughter lay in a nest of blankets, her head turned away, her hair in long dark strands over the covers. She made a deep sound in her throat, then turned toward them, and Bird could see how glad she was that Mama was there. Who wouldn't be glad to see Mama, who knew all about healing, about birthing? Mama, who always made things turn out right. Mama patted the woman's arm. "I know, Mrs. Taylor." She nodded at Bird. "Now here's what you'll do. You'll sit on the other side of the bed there, hold her hand, and cool her forehead with a damp cloth." Easy enough, Bird thought. "And I'll have the work of it," the woman said before another pain caught her, blanching the color from her cheeks. "You've done it all before." Mama leaned over to open her bag. "After 3 girls, there's nothing to the 4th, is there now?" Mama made a tent of the blankets so she could help with the birth, and Bird went into the other room to fill a pan with water and wring out a rag. She stepped over the children as she went, bending down to touch the tops of their heads. Back in the bedroom, she ran the rag over the woman's neck and face. She held her hand during the pains for as long as she could stand it, then pulled her own hand away in between each one. Bird's hands were larger than Mama's already, but still she felt as if her fingers were being crushed in the woman's grip. At first the woman talked a little, telling them that her husband wanted a boy, that he wouldn't forgive her if it was another girl. But after a while it was only her breathing Bird heard in that stifling room, and sometimes that sound in her throat. But Mama's voice was sure and soft, telling her it wouldn't be long. Bird sat there thinking about the miracle of it, to be like Mama, to be able to do this. She wanted nothing more than that, to go up and down the streets of Brooklyn with all that Mama knew in her head, the herbs to cure in a bag looped over her arm, the babies to birth. Bird watched Mama wipe her own forehead with her sleeve, then put her hands on the woman, pressing down and murmuring, "Take another breath, and as you let it out, push with me, push." It went on, and the room was filled with that July heat, with air that never moved. Such a long day, and the sounds the woman made were much louder now. So loud that the 2 children came to the door, staring in, until Mama realized they were there. She reached with her foot to push the door and gently close them out. And then the smell of blood was in the room, and the baby slid into Mama's hands, wet and glistening. "A girl." She handed her to Bird. Too bad about the foolish husband, Bird thought, looking down at the baby, who was pale and tiny and crying weakly. beautiful," she breathed, then washed her with water from the pan and wrapped her in the receiving blanket Mama took from her bag. Bird could feel the wetness in her eyes from the wonder of it, and the woman sighed and asked, "What's your name?" "Bridget Mallon." The name sounded strange. No one called her anything but Bird. "Bridget," the woman said. "Then that will be her middle name. Mary Bridget." Bird felt a rush of tears. "For me? How can I ever—" She rocked the baby gently. This was just the beginning, her first baby, and there'd never be another like her. It was almost as if that baby were looking straight at her, and that she knew it too. Mary Bridget, a person with a name. Mama went into the other room to wash her hands, then came back to clean the woman. Bird hated to give the baby up, but Mama raised her eyebrows, so she kissed the baby's cheek and put her into the woman's arms. "How disappointed he'll be," the woman said. "He's lucky," Bird said fiercely, then rinsed the woman's face one last time. As they left the apartment, the old man pressed a few coins into Mama's hand. Bird knew at least one of those coins would make its way into the saving for the farm box in the kitchen drawer. That box had been filling slowly for all the years she could remember. She felt as if she hardly touched each step as she went down the stairs. At the landing, she reached out to Mama. She didn't have a way with words, and it was hard to say what she felt. But Mama knew. "I remember my first." She put her hands on Bird's shoulders. "You're like me, Birdie. You'll be a healer like I am. Better." She touched Bird's face. "I couldn't ask for more." Could it be? Bird wondered. Would she ever know enough? As they came outside, the church bells were chiming. 6 o'clock, the day almost over. And then she saw a horse and cart in front of their house. It was laden with boxes and rickety furniture and chair legs up in the air. "Finally, new tenants for the apartment upstairs," Bird said. "I hope there's a girl." "Like himself, that husband, but he wanted a boy," Mama said, and they both smiled. Hands locked, they went up the flight of stairs. Bird's older sister, Annie, would be home from the box factory and sure to have a pot of coffee on the back of the stove for them, and a soda bread coming out of the oven. Maybe Hughie would be home too, bent over the table reading his newspaper. Bird wished for a glimpse of the new tenants, but they were nowhere in sight, and the door of the empty apartment upstairs was closed. "Soon enough," Mama said, reading her mind again. Nothing was ever soon enough for her. But then she remembered Mama's words. "I couldn't ask for more." She said them over in her mind, words she'd never forget. If only she could have held on to that day, held on to that moment forever, grasped it in her fist so it wouldn't escape. If only. Chapter 2. Thomas. Thomas thought about telling Pop it wasn't a good idea to leave the horse and cart out on the street like that. Anyone could take their stuff. And what about bringing the cart back to the livery stable over on Hudson Street? Hadn't Sweeney said he wanted them there before dark? But Pop had one thing on his mind, and that was to find the nearest pub. He was too thirsty to listen to anything else. Thomas took the bucket, still sloshing with water, from under the seat and held it up. The horse was as thirsty as Pop, and gulped it all down, showing a thick pink tongue. The baker on the first floor was moving back and forth in his shop as his assistants scurried around with trays of bread. It reminded Thomas that he hadn't eaten since breakfast. He followed Pop down Water Street then, across Fulton, past 2 or 3 pubs, until finally Pop stopped. "This one, I think." Pop squeezed his arm. "It looks like the pub in Granner, doesn't it?" He'd forgotten again. Thomas had never been in Granard, where Pop had been born, never been in Ireland. "Yes," Pop nodded. A good place.